and welcome back to another edition of the Sunday Vibes at NST podcast. And as usual, I have my regular partner in crime, Elena Koshi.
Hello there.
And as guest host today, we have someone quite remarkable, El.
Oh, yes. I keep thinking about his feet.
His feet or his feet, like kaki?
Not his feet.
Oh, no, his feet.
His feet.
Feet. Okay, so we've got Ridzwan Rahim in the house. Maybe one, as we like to call him. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Who are you? And what about this feet thing?
Who are you and what's your feet?
I was a journalist with the New Straits Times before, between 2000 to 2009.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And what's this feet?
Then when I was I became I took up swimming when I was with New Straits Times. Actually, I didn't know how to swim before that.
Oh dear.
And once I knew how to swim, I guess I panicked, and now I'm a marathon swimmer.
You're a marathon swimmer.
Yeah.
Okay, what was your latest achievement or latest feat, as Elena?
Latest feat with his feet.
With his feet. Yeah, with his feet.
Exactly right.
Okay, so what's your latest feat?
Well, most recently I swam from Pulau Lang Tengah to Pulau Perhentian.
How far is that?
That was the straight line distance is 17 kilometers, but I ended up swimming 26.2 kilometers.
Okay.
The reason for that was because due to poor planning, we ended up swimming during the monsoon season.
Oh my.
It was still monsoon when we got there, and then big waves, and it just pushed me everywhere.
Okay.
So I ended up swimming almost more than 10 kilometers.
Oh
wow.
my.
Yeah.
Okay, that's something that I can't do.
Oh, I definitely can't do. I
can't
can't
even
even swim to save my life.
Okay, but you know what? Swimming is not the topic today.
Nope.
Swimming
it
is
isn't.
not the topic today. But
We
you know
digressed.
what? No, okay, but we're going to digress a little bit more, just a little bit
Yes,
more
yes, can.
before we delve into the actual topic for today. Me and Elena would like to say thank you to all our listeners out there for making us,
The gold winner at the... You want to say the first part?
okay, MPI, Malaysian Press Institute.
Petronas Malaysian Journalism Awards 2023. We won for... Wait, I'm going to say this.
Okay.
Bicara Wara Radio Terbaik.
That's a bit of a tongue twister thing, right?
Bad postcard pula.
I told you it's a tongue twister.
Best podcast
Best radio podcast
in the country.
in the country.
Yay.
All right.
Yay.
Okay, now that we've got that out of the way,
Yeah,
So-
postcards pula.
so we'll just go on with the show. Okay.
Okay.
In conjunction with Father's Day, because today is Father's Day.
Oh, I'm going to cry.
Okay, we're going to have something a little bit more... Okay, Elena's going to cry. It's not supposed to induce tears, but I think it will.
It will.
It will.
I should have brought a bucket
Yeah,
of
we're going to be
tissues.
talking about our dear fathers and basically aging fathers, right?
Aging fathers.
Aging fathers and being caregivers for our aging fathers.
Yes.
Okay, but first I need to ascertain, how old are your respective fathers?
Mine 80.
Yours is 80. Is he
Yes.
still alive?
Yes.
Okay, he's still alive. Okay, what's the story with your dad?
He is currently bedridden.
Okay.
He has been diagnosed with Parkinson's.
Okay.
But this is not the shaking type. It's the type that when he wanted to move his muscle, the signal took a long time to reach the limbs. And matters got worse when he got a stroke a few years ago.
Oh dear.
So that was ever since then he has been bedridden. Before that he could still move a bit. We could get him up and walk this short distance to the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
But now he cannot do any of all those things anymore.
Are you the sole caregiver in the family? Do you have anyone else living with you? You're living with your father, right?
Yes, living with my parents and
Okay. Oh, your mother's still
a
around.
few siblings. Yeah,
Okay.
and we are all taking care of him.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's basically my mom taking care of him. I just help with the heavy lifting.
Okay, but I remember at one point you actually left your career to look after your father full time. Is that right, or have I got that wrong?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, so what happened there?
2019, I quit Petronas.
Mhm. Oh, you were with Petronas?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah. And the original plan was to go backpack around the world, but I cut short my trip. I went to South America.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How long
Spent 3 months.
Wow.
Almost 3 months in South America.
Okay.
Then I cut short the trip to come back and help to take care of my dad.
And why did you have to leave Petronas to do this? Was it like a full-time responsibility that
The
you
leaving
felt?
Petronas was actually to go backpacking.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
so but that I had to change my plan.
So you were looking after your dad.
Yeah, so when I came back from South America, I just decided, okay, I'm just gonna do some freelance work while taking care of him.
Okay, okay.
And the other siblings, they contributed in other ways.
Are you the eldest?
I am, yes.
You're the eldest.
Yeah.
Okay. What about you, Al? Because yours is a little bit different because your father's passed on. But he was also quite sick,
Yes,
right? He was
yes.
also very, very unwell.
Yes.
When did he pass away? And how old was he?
He passed away just a few days short of his 76th birthday.
76,
So he passed
right.
on in 2018. Yes.
Right. And what did he die of?
Well, complications because he was a diabetic for many, many years. So he died of sepsis, which was actually kidney, multiple organ failure and also, blood poisoning. Yeah, so...
And share with us, what was that experience like? I mean, was it a slow deterioration or...
you see, my father was a fighter. So he was very, very determined to live. So it started, of course, diabetic complications led to amputation of his first leg. When he amputated the first leg, he insisted he wanted a prosthetic leg.
Insisted
On
Okay.
it, and he wanted to ride a motorbike.
Wow.
So he got
Really?
himself a motorbike. Yeah,
Wow.
we were like so mortified and petrified because we're thinking this guy is like from the hospital bed, he wants to kill himself in a motorbike. But finally he got a car, and it's funny because his right leg was the one that's amputated, the one that presses the minyak, right?
Okay.
But he managed. So we were petrified. Every time I got into my father's car, I'll be like saying prayers all the way through. But then over the years, he was fine. Then he deteriorated somewhere shortly 2017 and they had to amputate the second leg. That's when everything went to hell.
Okay.
So he was bedridden, but he still wanted his prosthetic leg. The second one. But I mean, he was insisting on it, but he really couldn't have it because he was not even in a good place to have the prosthetic leg. But so that was a deterioration until 2018 was when he passed on. Just a
Okay.
few days shy of his 76th birthday.
So can you recall, I mean, I'm going to ask Ridzwan the same question too, but can you recall the main challenges of dealing with a father who was obviously, not as healthy as he used to be?
It's funny how from being cared for, we turn into caregivers. I think that role, as your parents age, that role becomes very apparent. And sometimes it's a little bit hard to accept the fact that your parents are frail and that they are not well and that they deserve care. And it was hard because he's heavy, and we are all girls. There's no boys in the family.
Right.
So it was left up to me. And I was the one who was living with my mom at home with him. So it was hard to even lift him because he was heavy, to change his diapers. I mean, I think he felt so embarrassed and said that, that he needed that to be changed and we were the ones who had to do it. And that was something he had to deal with as well.
Okay.
The worst was taking him to hospitals because, to get him from the wheelchair to the car and then from the car to the wheelchair required really a lot of acrobatics and, heavy lifting. And it was difficult at first because I just didn't have any strength to do it. And when you go to the hospital, it's not like as though it's easy because you need to put him again into the wheelchair. Then how do you park your car? Where do you go? You can't leave your father there.
That's
so
right.
all those logistics, right, is something that we have to think about every time we took him to the hospital.
Right.
You know, it's the going in and the coming out.
Right.
That was the heavy thing. And sometimes, but thankfully later we had a maid and it made it much easier, a helper to help lift him, which made it much easier. But before that, it was like I would be running around even to the security guard begging them for their help to get my dad out of the car into the wheelchair because I
Right.
couldn't do it on my own.
Right.
So it was difficult for all of us because of that.
Right.
Yeah.
What about you, Wan? I mean, your dad is now bedridden, but what are your main challenges? I'm assuming. Okay, maybe let me just start off with what kind of relationship did you enjoy with your father before he got sick or before he became less able? Was it a close relationship? Were you, were you the sort that did a lot of things together with your dad? I mean, was he a very dominant force in the family? What was he like?
No, well, I must say that I'm not that close with my parents.
Okay.
I am quite independent in that sense because I think it was because I spent 8 years living in a boarding school. So I think that was the cause of it. And I always assumed that my parents were independent. They could take care of themselves until this came along. Yeah.
Right.
So, but we have some similarities. Like my dad, he was into. I mean, he would spend his time at the kebun in Hulu Langat.
Okay.
So on and off, when I go back to my parents' house weekends, I would go and help him there, join him, and
Okay.
so that was the extent of my involvement in his life. Anyway, he had his own things to do at the kebun, his own projects, and I can see some similarities there because now I also have my own projects.
So, what would you say is the biggest similarity between your father and you, if there was one?
Our looks, actually, we
you look the
once
same?
we once won a father and son lookalike contest.
Really?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, organized by Shakey's Pizza. So all we had, there's no more Shaky Pizza.
Okay,
I don't
okay.
think anyone knows.
Oh my God, I
Right.
remember Shaky's
Shaky,
Pizza.
Yeah, that's a long time ago.
So all we had to do was submit a photo of us, the father and son, and then we won, and the prize was
Pizza.
pizzas, yeah, free pizza. So,
Interesting,
yeah.
interesting. So the thing is now that the role has
so my
reversed.
dad looks like me.
Your dad looks like
Yeah.
you. But would you say that through his the more challenging times now that your bond has grown stronger with him, or how has it changed? How has the relationship changed?
It is a challenge to take care of someone who is bedridden or cannot do anything for himself. I would say that it's not just a challenge for the patient, but also the caregiver.
Yes,
yes.
Yeah?
absolutely.
It's probably even bigger for the caregiver.
Right.
And
right.
the thing is, a lot of people in this situation, they might neglect to take care of themselves.
the
The
you're talking about the
caregivers,
caregivers.
correct.
That's
the
right.
caregiver.
Yeah.
So I recognized early on, also because being a marathon swimmer, I knew the importance of pacing and keeping to a pace that allows you to go on and on and on. So I knew that it was not sustainable if I kept doing everything or like I get hurt in my back and my
Yes.
wrist, right?
Right,
So
right.
we have to figure out a way where we can do the work, but it has to be sustainable in the long term. So one way for me to do this is mentally, I had to come up with something big to get myself off the pressure of caregiving a bit.
Okay.
And in this instance, swimming helped.
Swimming.
Yeah, so I
Okay.
spent my time swimming, and eventually I came up with all these marathon swim projects.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. Because
it's a way
sometimes
to cope.
yeah, sometimes we always think that the patient, or rather the one who's sick, is the one that needs the most attention. But sometimes we forget that it's also a lot of pressure and stress for the caregiver as well, because the caregiver, like you, me, Elena, right? We have to go to work. We have a juggling act, a balancing act to contend with. And at the same time, there is no way in hell that you're going to, let go of your responsibilities of looking after your aging parents, in this case, your dad. You holding a full-time job as well. How difficult was that
Oh, it
to
was-
play a part, in looking after your father?
It was difficult because at that point of time, I was working for a retail company. I remember when he started to deteriorate. I remember on my first day reporting there, there was a medical emergency. And the night before I was going to report for duty,
Oh dear.
I was in the ambulance with him.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Going, and that was my first ambulance ride. Trust me, it's like a stunt driving thing. I was holding on to my life on a rickety stool. Yeah, so I remember that. Then I remember that every time then that happened quite frequently. I remember having to sit and do my work on the floor while he was in the bed in the emergency ward waiting for the doctor to come. I still had to do my work.
Yeah.
So I'll be sitting, and I think at that time I was with NST
Yes,
already.
that's
I was
right.
sitting and typing stories while I was sitting down on the floor by his bedside. So those kind of things I remember lah. So it took a toll. It did take a toll because it was exhausting.
Okay, and how did you deal with that? Because like Ridzwan turned to swimming, to just offload the pressure a little bit, to breathe. So what did you do?
I think I didn't handle it very well. I must
Okay.
say I didn't have that escape route, so to speak, at that time. But of course, having said that, I had sisters, and we all took turns to do the heavy lifting. It wasn't just me alone. I had my mum there, who was remarkably strong, who was taking care of him. So I mean, all that allowed me to do my work. I didn't have to quit my job or anything like that. But at that point, I think I really didn't have an escape route. So it was really difficult to see him deteriorate, because we always had this very love-hate relationship going on throughout our life. So to see him, and he's still himself, which meant he was the most difficult patient ever.
Was he cranky?
He was cranky like all the time. Oh my
Okay.
God, he was cranky all the time.
So how difficult was it to actually remain patient and
Very
kind?
difficult.
Okay,
How
did
difficult.
you do it?
Let me give you an example. So when he came out, this was way back when he got his bypass, right? So we all were there crying and seeing him being wheeled out of the operating theatre, getting him in recovery, seeing him unconscious and all that. We were all there. And then when he wakes up, he wants that, there was this mechanism where they need to blow into that thing to check, to exercise their, I forgot to bring it, and he scolded me in the recovery room. So I looked at the nurse and said, is there anything I can unplug? Is there anything I can unplug from his thing there? So that's who he is, and if he's wheeled out and you don't come with his packet of nasi lemak or his food, woe betide you if he didn't bring.
Oh.
Because he hated hospital food, so he relied on us to bring all the good stuff, right?
Right.
Yeah, so he had a mind of his own lah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about your dad then? How difficult is it dealing with your father now that he's bedridden, and how do you keep your cool and compassion and patience?
My dad is a very patient man.
Oh, he's a patient man.
Yeah.
Okay.
He doesn't get angry easily. And now in his state, he doesn't even have any control of his muscles. He cannot even swallow. Cannot even talk.
dear.
So all the food, milk will go straight to the inner tube, straight to the tummy.
Okay.
So now he has no way of. He just through his grunts and the facial expression that we knew that he's
Yeah.
whenever he suffers in his condition, right? So that's
Intan, what about you?
yeah.
Because
I wanted to ask.
because I mean, your dad, you've also, although he's not based here,
Yeah.
but you have played that role for him as well.
Yeah,
What
I
is
mean,
your
okay,
experience?
my father's not bedridden, and neither has he passed on. He's still quite healthy, I hope. But obviously, aging. I think he's 75 now. He just celebrated his 75th birthday. The thing that I've always admired about my dad is the fact that he's always been someone that I see as being very strong. He was always the man of the house. He's the leader. He's someone I always looked up to because he was just like strong, right? But as he aged, I noticed, because I live away from them because I live in the UK. Every time they come back, I see that he's gotten older, he's got more grey hair, he's got more lines, creases around the eyes, and it sort of slowly sunk in that, the aging process has hit. And I despair, every time I see, I despair, because this very, very strong man that I used to look up to, I still do, but I realize that he's getting on, and then recently he was diagnosed with a few things, and there was a cancer scare as well. So that actually made me realize that I have been taking my parents, or rather my dad, for example, in this case, for granted because we have this assumption that our parents are always going to be there for us. And because they've been the strongest ever since we've been born, I guess, growing up and all that, we always think that somehow, we're going to have enough time to just hang with them later.
Yeah.
Everyone else becomes a priority, but not your parents. But now when I see him and I see that he no longer can play badminton with me so well, he can no longer keep up. So, yeah, I'm thinking, you know what? I need to prioritize. I need to make sure that whatever time that we have is going to be meaningful. At least he's not bedridden. At least, we can still go for walks. At least he can still come out with me, and enjoy roti canai and teh tarik, which he likes. And, one of the things that he likes to do is he's an eater. He loves to eat. Okay, my mother's always saying, no, you're getting old. You can't eat this. You can't eat that. It's going to be bad for your health. And he's always saying something like this. You know what? As long as I can eat, just let me eat. Because there will be a day when I can no longer eat. And, that hits me so hard. It makes me so sad. And I'll always be on my dad's side and I'll say, Mom, just let him eat whatever he wants because he's right.
Yeah, my dad, he cannot eat anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I border between like allowing him to just enjoy, you can't predict how long they have, right? You can't predict. But then who are you to stop them from actually just enjoying whatever time they have left? Because, eventually we're all going to die anyway. Right?
No, my father also had that same thing where he will say, just let me eat because that's the only thing I have left to enjoy.
That's right.
If you take that away from me, what do I have?
Yeah.
So he used to say that. So, so he would eat. That was one thing. Even when he was in the hospital, he'd want his favorite, that Malawi's uncle's nasi lemak. We have to get that, the pachik's nasi lemak. That particular nasi lemak we have to get because that's the one he likes with his sambal sotong.
Do you guys get quite emotional watching, your parents or your father sort of aging? Is it an emotional journey for you? I mean, for you before that, was it something that affected you in any way?
I think like you, I always assume that he'll be around because he had always had emergencies and he came back. He always had that very strong will to live. He, whatever said and done, whenever he went, because he's gone through a bypass, he went through an amputation, he went through a brain bleed. He went through that. They had to do a burr hole surgery for him. So all these emergency, he had a stroke. So a lot of things. So every time he went through that, I will tell him, I said, you have me. You got to come back. And he'll say, yeah, I'll come back. So he did. He had a very strong, but I think seeing him grow frailer was towards the end of his life. And it was very hard for me to see it. And, back then, right, when we are caregivers, it's not like as though we look at some books and that teach us how to be a caregiver. It's all through trial and error, you know what I'm saying? So
there's no manual.
There's no manual, or there's no one to teach us. And, nobody told me that, you need to have a balance. What balance? It was just the three of us girls trying to figure out what to do with our dad, how to care for him the best way we could. And when he passed on, I had a lot of guilt. And that guilt ran deep. I think, it really ran deep because I kept thinking from the day he died for at least a month, I'll sit in his bed and I'll look at the board because we had a board there with all his hospital appointments, and I'll be apologizing to him. I'm just saying, I'm so sorry. I'm trying to see what I missed, whether I missed this appointment, and we did miss one or two appointments, and I'll be so guilty. And it was hard. It was hard. For me, the hard part was when he passed.
Right.
Because it was like, you think that your dad will be with you forever.
Yeah,
you think that he's so strong, such a strong personality. You think he'll be there. And then the next day you wake up and he's not.
Yeah.
And that was the worst thing for me.
What about you, Wan? I mean, if there's something that you wish you did or you could have done while your dad still was healthy or not, not bedridden, what would it be? What do you think? If you could sort of do things over, what would it be?
I try to remember the funny incidents or happy times.
What's your happiest memory?
When he just got diagnosed with Parkinson's and he could still walk short distances at the time.
Mhm.
So the whole family, we decided to take him to do the Umrah. And then of course we brought along a wheelchair. So the sons were all assigned to pushing him around during the circumambulation of the Kaabah.
How many brothers do you have?
The four of us.
4. Okay.
So we took turns to do that, and there was one time my turn, I was pushing him, and then he told me he needed the exercise, so he asked to switch. So he told me to get on the chair, and he pushed me. He pushed me, and then he was doing very well. And then after a while, he started going really fast. So at the time I thought, wow, my dad is doing very well. He's strong. and suddenly he stopped, and suddenly he said, "Ayah nak jatuh." Then I couldn't. It was too fast, and then he fell. I was in the wheelchair. I couldn't do anything. So when he fell, the people around went to his rescue, help him to get up. And I remember this. The first face that I saw after that happened was this guy in the ihram attire, right? Cloth. He looked at me and he was giving me this WTF look.
Like, why are you doing the wheelchair?
Yeah. And this guy, he looked like this character from American Pie.
Oh dear.
One of the boys from American Pie, Kevin. So I thought, what's Kevin from American Pie doing in Makkah? So that was the funniest memory that I've had of my father.
Is that your favorite memory of your dad?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. I kept telling that story to people. Kevin of American Pie in Makkah.
What about you, El? What's your favorite memory of your late dad?
I'll be so scared of him because like when I go and bang and knock my car, right? The worst thing worst thing to do is tell my dad because he's like he'll be so upset lah, So I remember there's one time I knocked my car and I was so scared to tell him, but somehow he knew. So he came out to see my car, and that time he was already sick. He was already, deteriorating, but he still came out with his walker to see the damage on my car. And I used to remember how he'll insist that when I service my car, he must be there. So with his walker and everything, he'll be shouting at the mechanic and telling them what to do. He'll come and peer inside my car, then he'll be advising me, not really advising, but shouting at me and say, "Why you never take care of your car? You should be, look at this, didn't put water or something." I have no clue lah. But anyway, he'll be just shouting at me lah. And then he'll be telling but the mechanics loved him. The uncle mechanic, with whom I still go to this day. But so he'll be telling them lah, said, "Okay, do this." He'll be looking. He liked to play an active role lah.
Yeah, sounds like my dad.
It's funny,
like
right? Because I'm sure your dad too.
My dad's the same. My dad, sometimes I get really scared, to bring him along because I don't know who he's going to terrorize next. But he's like that, But he's super kind. He's got a very, very kind heart. So he's the type, right? If you go to a restaurant or cafe or even a stall, right, the food can be really, really bad. The waitress treats him, with respect, treats him well. He doesn't even care that the food is
about
bad.
The food.
Yeah, for him, because that's where I learn, about etiquette, about treating people nicely, treating people with respect and just being good, just being good. Because my dad, he does have a short temper, actually. He has a temper. Oh, he had a temper when we were younger. I swear he was like public enemy number 1 for me and my brother.
Oh my God, yeah.
But then I know that he was the type that flared up very fast, but also sort of
cool down
quite fast as well. And for me, I think my favorite memory of my dad is that, okay, he's always been the sportsman. And he's very proud of the fact that when he was young, he would think nothing of hitchhiking from Sepang, where he was, and finding himself on a lorry with some strangers all the way in Penang. And one of his favorite stories is like, he said that's what he did one time. I think he was just a teenager. And he called his mother, my grandmother from Penang, and said, "Hey," my grandmother's like, "Where have you been?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm somewhere in Penang," because he hitchhiked. And he's
Oh
he's
my
brave
God.
that way. He's really brave that way, and I love that story. And I can see the frustrations in him now that he's older, because he realizes that he doesn't have the energy anymore. He has the fire, but you know how they say it's like the mind is able, but the body is not so able
Yeah,
anymore.
like the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak or something like that, right?
That's right. And I see that is his biggest frustration. And sometimes I have to remind him that, Dad, maybe you can't do this, right? And then he would get really upset. Yeah,
Yeah.
he'd get really upset, because I think sometimes he forgets that he is getting older. And sometimes I forget, because sometimes when I want to go trekking, right, where I go to Langkawi or whatever, and I'll say, Dad, let's go. We're going to do this with whatever. And then my mom has to remind me, your dad, I don't think can go that high, or I don't think he can do it. And he'll be like, no, I can. But we know, the reality is it's an aging thing. So what can you say? But yeah, so that's my dad.
My dad tries to matchmake me even in the hospital with total strangers.
That's what dads do, no?
If we'll go to the hospital, we'll wait there. He'll make conversation with somebody and find out that they have a son, and he'll try to sell
Sell
me
Sell
to them.
you.
I mean,
Okay.
not in the literal sense, but then later he'll say, so I used to tell him, and we'll fight all the way back because of what he does. So I say, what if that guy was a serial killer or some
Yeah, exactly.
ex-murderer or some
Exactly.
wife beater or something?
Exactly.
You don't know where he comes from. And he'll be so angry with me.
They're well-meaning, right? They're
Well-meaning, but I mean, now when I think about it, it's funny lah.
Yeah, it's funny now,
But
right?
at that time it wasn't so, but yeah.
Hey, you know what? We have actually exceeded the time allocated as usual. But you know what? I'm sure there's loads that we can talk about when it comes to our fathers.
Yeah.
But I think we have to end the show right now. But before we go, is there anything that you would wish to say to your dad that maybe you've not actually uttered to him, to his face? Now you can do it on live podcast.
Bicara wara.
Bicara wara. Would you like to say something? Maybe you can play this for him on Father's Day.
I mean, I don't know if he really can watch anything now, or make sense.
Can he hear?
I think sometimes he when people comes to the house, he can still recognize them.
Okay.
I just want to tell him that we are trying to make his life as comfortable as possible, in his condition now. I think that's all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep.
What about you, Al? If you had the chance, if there's something that you didn't have the chance to say to your father when he was still around, what would it be?
I wish he knew how deeply we loved him.
Mm-hmm.
He always felt that we loved our mom more, or that we, of course we are girls, so we'll gravitate to our mom. But I'm sure he knows now maybe that we did love him very much, and till today I miss him, and I really do miss him. And it feels like time doesn't heal. He passed away in 2018, but it's still fresh today as it was when it was in 2018. So I'll always miss him. I love him, and hope he's happy terrorizing the angels up there, which he probably would. Probably get into a building committee up there and fight with people. So I hope he's doing all what he loves up there.
Right. Okay, as for me, because my dad is still around, I think if there's one thing, I don't really have something that I wish to say to him, but if there's one thing that I'm going to make myself do from, every time I say this to myself, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to do, and I don't think I have done it yet. My dad loves to write. He likes to compose stories. He writes so well. I don't know, maybe, I've gotten my writing skills from him, but he loves to tell stories. And I know for the last few years, he loves writing and reminiscing about his school days, about life in Malaysia or Malaya, back then, writing about his brothers. That's what he does on the public transport in London, and he writes it down, and he spends time in the cafe writing and writing. And he's always like wanting me to make some time for him to look through his stories. So, because he's super proud that, I'm an editor, and he's always like, sheepishly sending me copies, on WhatsApp and asking me, do you think maybe you can make some time to look at my stories?
Wow.
And I'm always like, okay, Dad, I'll get to you because I'm so busy editing everybody else's copies. And, and I know it sort of deflates his enthusiasm. And I wish that, I prioritize his writing over everybody else, because I know it means a lot to him. And, one day it's going to be our family story, because that's what he's doing. And it's like an archive of sorts. And I always say to myself, I'm going to make him my priority. I'm going to make his writing my priority. So everything else can wait. And I know how proud he is of his writing. And it means a lot to him when I say, yes, I will look at it. And then when I revert and I give him feedback, I know he's super happy. It doesn't take a lot to make our parents happy. It doesn't take a lot to make our fathers happy.
Yeah.
So there's no price to it, right? So I think for me, that is something that I'm going to endeavor to do, before it's too late and there's nothing to read after that. So on that very sad note, I'm sorry to have to end on that note, but I'd just like to say thank you for listening, and please don't forget to get your copy of Sunday Vibes, which is inside the New Sunday Times, failing which, go to NST Online, because we're there, and we also have an Instagram page.
Yes, Bichara Wara. No, just kidding. So it's Sunday Vibes _NST. Please look us up, say hello, drop us a slide into our DMs and say hi.
So cool. Yeah, suggest some topics too. Thank you, Wan, for coming on board and sharing with us your story.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it, and hope your father is okay. Yeah.
We look forward to your next swim.
Yes, and your next feet.
Your next feet.
Yes,
with your
next
feet.
Yes, with your feet. Okay, on that note, thank you so much for listening. Until the next time, bye.
Bye.
Audio Plus.